Did you know that Sears was selling homes through their catalog by mail order between 1908 and 1940? These houses were sold in kits which the customers would assemble themselves. It's said that the customers could build the houses in about 3 months. I'm building this 1/12 scale model of a Sears kit house. Sears was selling thousands of items by mail order using their 2-inch thick 325-page catalog during that time. Sears sold almost everything through their catalogs, even pianos. I'm working on a miniature piano. I'm building it from a kit that I purchased from the dollar store for just $4. The kit's made out of real wood. I laid out the pieces for the piano, and here you can see the piano bench that I've already assembled. The pieces don't fit together properly. The wooden tabs are slightly too large. I'm going to need to file the tabs down so that I can make the model fit together properly. Notice the gap here. I'm using a set of miniature crafting files. This is the miniature piano bench, and you can see here that there are little tabs where I pop these parts out from the piece of wood. I also need to file these little tabs off as well. I'm quite impressed with the little piano bench. Here you can see a photograph of a piano bench from a piano from the same era as my Sears kit house. The piano bench looks pretty similar to the one in my model kit. So let's get started and file these tabs down to size while I tell you about the Sears mail order business 100 years ago. Users would select the items they wanted from the Sears catalog. Sears had several different models of pianos for customers to choose from. Here are some of the pianos from the catalog that Sears was selling back in those days. The prices ranged from just $89 to as high as $195. Well, that was back in 1905. So how much is $89 to $195 in today's dollars? Well, using an inflation calculator I found on the internet, this is equivalent to approximately $3,500 to $7,000 in today's money. If you're enjoying my video, please click the like button and maybe even consider subscribing. That'd be awesome. Here's a photograph I found on the internet of what the piano would have actually looked like. These pianos were sold by Sears and were made by the Beckwith Piano Company, which is no longer in business. They had factories in Louisville, Kentucky, and St. Paul, Minnesota. This is the Beckwith Special Concert Piano, veneered in oak with exotic French burled walnut. This is a top-of-the-line piano, and it was guaranteed for 25 years. Some people thought that because these pianos came from Sears, they couldn't be a good quality musical instrument. According to many people, this was not the case. Because they were guaranteed for 25 years, they had to hold up to the test of time. And they had to be well made, especially since these pianos were shipped all around the country. They had to be able to function in both dry and moist climates. These pianos took approximately 3 months to build in the factory from start to finish. They had 7 coats of varnish, and it took the varnish 10 days to set between coats. If you have a Beckwith piano and you're wondering what it's worth, well, it looks like the prices are all over the map. Some say you can find them for as low as $500, and some say they'll fetch $6,000 to $13,000. And the picture of the piano I showed you was actually listed fully refurbished and selling for $24,000. Also popular in those days were player pianos. Here's a picture of a player piano similar to the one my grandparents once had. The player piano used a paper roll with holes cut in it to play the music. This was like the CD or the flash drive of the day. You'd put the paper roll in the piano and you'd pump the pedal, shown here. The piano didn't require any electricity. It worked on the air you generated by pumping the pedals to play the piano. You generated the air to fill the bellows to play the piano by pumping these pedals. Sometimes young children couldn't reach the pedals, so they'd get on the floor and pump the pedals using their hands. As a kid, I used to play my grandparents' player piano. The faster the song, the harder and more effort it took to pump the pedals. So if you had a fast tune, like say the Beer Barrel Poka for example, it would take a lot more effort to pump those pedals than a slow tune. The faster you pump, the faster the piano would play. And the faster you pump, the more tired you got. And as you started to pump slower, well, the tune just seemed to start to drag. I'm going to put a link in the description to the Beer Barrel Poka so you can check it out later, along with my grandfather's favorite song. The tune was called Hallelujah, I'm a Bum. When you purchased the piano from Sears, it would be shipped to you by rail. The advantages of buying a Sears piano is that they were built in a centralized factory where there were expert craftsmen and the tools needed to build these pianos. The factory could mass produce them, reducing the price compared to their competitors. Where an independent store might only sell 4 or 5 pianos a year, Sears was able to purchase en masse, and they sold 2,000 to 3,000 pianos a year. In many ways, Sears was a pioneer in the retail business. They were selling items by mail order, making them the Amazon of the day, and because they were among the largest retailers of the day, with huge buying power, they were also like the Walmart of today. A customer purchasing a piano could save almost half of what you would pay to buy it from a local business, which could amount to a savings of up to $250, which is a lot of money in those days. Sears said they were able to sell their pianos much cheaper than the competition because they eliminated the middleman and passed along the savings to the customer. This gave customers access to goods that they otherwise wouldn't be able to afford. In those days, a piano could pass through many dealers until it finally reached the customer. Each middleman would add a markup to the cost of the piano, increasing the cost of the piano through the supply chain. Sears changed the way people shop. Up until then, only people living in cities had access to large department stores. With the Sears catalog and mail order business, Sears was able to give people living in rural areas who often didn't have a car or other easy ways to get into the city access to thousands of items that they could only dream of before. Quite often, people living in these rural areas only had access to the general store, which sold a variety of items, but limited in variety. The general store usually included a local post office. When Sears introduced their catalog and mail order business, it opened up a whole new world for many people living in those isolated areas, just like Amazon does today. They could flip through the catalog and find dozens and dozens of products that previously weren't available to them. The latest clothing styles, new and different toys, and exotic items like a porcelain pipe from Germany, halfway across the world. High-tech items of the day like cameras would be described in detail, which had features like cases made from the finest Moroccan leather. Sears gave customers access to products from around the world that they otherwise wouldn't have had access to, and at a price they could afford. Today, everything we use and eat in our everyday lives travels to us from all corners of the world, and often items like computers or iPhones often travel to several countries and thousands of miles before we even see it, having touched the hands of hundreds of people in lands we may never get to see. And this is just normal for us. We take it for granted, but in those days, these were amazing feats. The Postal Service played a very important role for the Sears business. Most packages were sent to the customer by mail. Today you'll see Amazon trucks everywhere, but in those days, it was the post office that delivered the goods. Freight companies often didn't deliver to remote areas back in those days because it simply wasn't profitable for many businesses. And if they did deliver to those remote areas, well, the cost was extremely high. Back in the 1900s, the post office would deliver everywhere. Well, some routes made a profit for the post office, others didn't, so the profitable routes would subsidize the unprofitable routes. Although these people were living in isolated rural areas, their contribution to the country was as important as those people living in the city, and therefore providing postal services was important. These people were farmers growing crops like corn and wheat, or loggers or miners working in remote areas of the country, all helping to build the country in its early years. This was the reason the post office wasn't always able to make a profit, unlike a business which can pick and choose only the profitable markets. Many of these small communities only had one general store, and it often had a post office in it. As you can imagine, the owners of these general stores weren't too pleased when Sears started offering mail order sales. For the first time, many of these stores had competition. It was no longer easy for them to gouge their customers, and Sears, with their large buying power, could offer goods cheaper, which really started to cut into the shoppers' sales and profits. Yeah, I remember when Walmart first started opening up stores in small towns. The local shopkeepers weren't that happy either. It changed the way Main Street looked in many small towns. Sometimes the owners of these general stores would try to dispose of the Sears catalogs so that people wouldn't be able to buy from Sears, but it never really seemed to work. Customers would go to the post office and purchase a money order for their product and mail in their order, and sometime later, their product would arrive by mail to the very same general store where they had purchased similar goods from before. As time passed, people had more access to automobiles. These large department stores moved into the suburbs where we saw the invention of the shopping mall. And with cars, people could bring their goods home with them from the store the very same day. Sears was often an anchor store to draw crowds into these shopping malls. As time went on, Sears saw competition of their own from big box stores such as Walmart and online shopping like Amazon with even bigger buying power, larger international markets, and even lower prices than Sears could offer. Sears, like the general store, faced its own competition, and today, like the country general store, there's just a handful of Sears stores left. With the introduction of big box stores such as Walmart and fewer service associates, and online retailers such as Amazon with their massive buying power and international supply chains, we began to see customers able to access cheap products from all around the world, and this was the norm. Products they would never have afforded from a small country general store. Today, Walmart is ranked as the world's largest employer with 2.1 million employees, and Amazon is ranked second with 1.6 million employees worldwide. Walmart had a total sales revenue in 2024 of $648 billion, and Amazon was close behind with annual net sales of $638 billion. And where's Sears today? Well, they're just a distant memory with a spattering of a few stores just still trying to hang in there. Anyway, I got the tabs filed down and everything fits together pretty good now. The package suggests painting the model, which is what I'm going to do next. I want to see how good I can make this cheap dollar store miniature model look. Hey, check out this playlist if you want to see the progress of this project from start to finish. We'll see you in the next video.